The history of the Muslims of the South Asian subcontinent after the fall of the Mughal Empire is a long, painful, and deeply transformative story. It is a story of decline and despair, but also of revival and renaissance. It is a story of a once dominant civilization that fell into political ruin, social stagnation, intellectual backwardness, and economic deprivation, yet gradually rose again through educational awakening, religious reform, political consciousness, and collective struggle. This long historical journey ultimately culminated in the birth of Muslim nationhood and the creation of Pakistan as an independent homeland for the Muslims of the subcontinent. The decline of Muslim political power in India began gradually after the death of the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in 1707. During Aurangzeb's reign, the Mughal Empire had remained vast, powerful, and administratively organized, stretching over most parts of the Indian subcontinent. However, after his death, the empire entered into a prolonged period of internal disintegration. Weak successors, court conspiracies, regional rebellions, economic exhaustion, and administrative corruption steadily eroded Mughal authority. Provincial governors became autonomous rulers, and the once mighty empire began to crumble from within. At the same time, external invasions further shattered Mughal strength. The invasion of Nader Shah in 1739 devastated Delhi and exposed the weakness of the empire before the world. Soon afterwards, repeated invasions by Ahmad Shah Durrani further destabilized northern India. Meanwhile, the British East India Company, initially a commercial enterprise, gradually transformed itself into a political and military power. Through diplomacy, intrigue, economic manipulation, and military conquest, the British expanded their control over India. The decisive Battle of Plassey in 1757 and the Battle of Buxar in 1764 marked the beginning of British political dominance in the subcontinent. For the Muslims, the collapse of Mughal rule was not merely the fall of a dynasty. It symbolized the downfall of centuries of Muslim political authority, cultural prestige, and intellectual leadership in South Asia. The community that had once ruled vast territories and shaped the political and cultural life of the region suddenly found itself politically dispossessed and psychologically shattered. The Muslims entered an age of deprivation, humiliation, and uncertainty. The final blow came with the War of Independence of 1857, also known as the Indian Rebellion of 1857. Although Hindus and Muslims both participated in the uprising against British rule, the British largely blamed the Muslims for the rebellion because the symbolic leadership of the revolt had revolved around the last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar. After crushing the revolt with extreme brutality, the British abolished the Mughal Empire forever in 1858 and exiled Bahadur Shah Zafar to Rangoon. This event formally ended centuries of Muslim political sovereignty in India. The consequences for the Muslims were catastrophic. They were removed from important government positions, deprived of economic opportunities, and treated with suspicion by the colonial administration. Muslim landed elites lost their estates, old aristocratic families declined into poverty, and many centers of Muslim culture and learning deteriorated. Persian, which had long been the language of administration and scholarship under Muslim rule, was replaced by English. Muslims, who were deeply attached to traditional education and reluctant to adopt Western learning under colonial rulers, lagged far behind in modern education and government employment. This period witnessed a severe social and intellectual putrefaction among the Muslims of the subcontinent. A deep sense of hopelessness spread through the community. Many Muslims withdrew into isolation, clinging to memories of past glory while remaining detached from modern scientific and political developments. Educational backwardness increased. Economic decline became widespread. Social stagnation and political passivity further weakened the Muslim community. The Muslims, once rulers of the subcontinent, became one of its most deprived and marginalized populations. Yet from within this darkness emerged voices of reform, revival, and renaissance. Muslim intellectuals, scholars, educationists, and reformers realized that without awakening and reconstruction, the Muslim community would disappear politically and intellectually under colonial domination. One of the greatest among these reformers was Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Sir Syed understood that the Muslims could no longer survive merely by glorifying their past. They needed modern education, scientific thinking, and intellectual renewal. Following the trauma of 1857, Sir Syed devoted his life to the educational and social uplift of Muslims. He urged Muslims to learn English, acquire modern scientific knowledge, and engage with contemporary political realities. Through the Aligarh movement, he initiated a powerful intellectual awakening among Indian Muslims. The establishment of the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College at Aligarh in 1875, later becoming Aligarh Muslim University, became a turning point in Muslim educational history. The Aligarh movement produced a new Muslim middle class educated in modern sciences, law, administration, and political thought. It cultivated confidence among Muslims and encouraged them to participate actively in public life. Sir Syed also emphasized that Muslims were a distinct community with their own religion, culture, civilization, historical traditions, and social values. Although he initially advocated cooperation with the British, his ideas gradually laid the intellectual foundations of Muslim nationhood in India. Alongside educational reform, religious revival movements also emerged. Earlier scholars such as Shah Waliullah Dehlavi had already emphasized the moral and spiritual reconstruction of Muslim society. Later reformers sought to purify religious practices, strengthen Islamic identity, and preserve Muslim civilization under colonial pressure. Islamic seminaries such as the Darul Uloom Deoband played an important role in safeguarding Islamic scholarship and religious learning. In the 20th century, Muslim political consciousness intensified further. Constitutional reforms introduced by the British gradually expanded representative institutions and electoral politics. Muslims feared that under a democratic system dominated numerically by Hindus, they would become politically powerless and culturally vulnerable. The rise of Hindu revivalist movements and growing communal tensions deepened Muslim anxieties. The formation of the All India Muslim League in 1906 marked a historic milestone in Muslim political organization. The Muslim League sought to protect Muslim political rights and represent Muslim interests before the British government. Over time, the demand for constitutional safeguards evolved into the demand for separate nationhood. The philosophical foundations of Muslim nationalism were powerfully articulated by Allama Muhammad Iqbal. Iqbal argued that Islam was not merely a private religion but a complete civilization and social order. He believed that the Muslims of India constituted a distinct nation because of their religion, history, cultural traditions, and worldview. In his famous Allahabad address of 1930, Iqbal envisioned a consolidated Muslim state in northwestern India. This vision later found determined political leadership under Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Initially an advocate of Hindu-Muslim unity, Jinnah gradually became convinced that Muslims could not secure their rights within a united India dominated by the Hindu majority. He emerged as the chief spokesman of Muslim political aspirations. Under his leadership, the Muslim League transformed into a mass political movement. The two-nation theory now became the ideological foundation of Muslim politics. It declared that Hindus and Muslims were not merely two religious communities but two separate nations with distinct civilizations, cultures, laws, histories, and collective identities. Therefore, Muslims were entitled to their own homeland where they could live according to their religious, cultural, and political ideals. This demand culminated in the historic Lahore Resolution, which called for independent Muslim-majority states in northwestern and eastern India. During the following years, the Pakistan movement gathered extraordinary momentum. Students, scholars, journalists, women, workers, and political activists joined the struggle for Muslim freedom and self-determination. Finally, after decades of political struggle, negotiations, sacrifices, and communal tensions, the British decided to partition India. On August 14, 1947, Pakistan emerged as an independent state for the Muslims of the subcontinent. The creation of Pakistan represented the culmination of a long historical process that had begun with the downfall of Muslim political authority after the Mughal era. It symbolized the rebirth of Muslim nationhood after centuries of decline, deprivation, humiliation, and struggle. Thus, the emergence of Muslim nationalism in South Asia was not merely a political event. It was the result of a profound civilizational renaissance. From the ruins of the Mughal Empire arose a new Muslim consciousness shaped by educational reform, religious revival, intellectual awakening, political mobilization, and the determination to preserve a distinct identity. The Muslims of the subcontinent transformed their despair into aspiration, their decline into renewal, and their historical suffering into a movement that ultimately achieved freedom and nationhood.